Okay, welcome everyone to the CSF series. We continue our journey here today with Michele. Michele, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it for sure. I really do appreciate the chance to be able to speak with you. One, because I've been following you for a while, and two, I appreciate being able to get my story out there so that it can help other people.
Excellent. Yeah, wonderful. Tell us what is your story? Who is Michele? How did you get interested in the cerebrospinal fluid, and what is your relationship with it?
Well, my name is Michele Burch, and I am a spinal flow practitioner, and I also am a medical intuitive. However, when I first got introduced to the cerebral spinal fluid, and I actually did not know much about it, and I definitely was not a practitioner as of yet. I was looking for my own healing, so really kind of probably have to take a few steps back in order to go forward to be able to explain everything properly. I was born with the ability to have, I was very much clairvoyant. I had dreams that were absolute total premonitions and had them from a little child all the way up until I had a pretty major car accident, actually. And I had a conglomerate of things that had happened over the years, including some of the things that I had been born with that were causing me some problems and issues. Like I was born with TMJ, a really bad case of TMJ, and lockjaw. My jaw blocked open and shut at different times, which was not comfortable, obviously, by any means. And I also was born with a corkscrew scoliosis that we didn't actually realize was that severe or that bad until after I was in high school. So my largest growth spurt, I actually only grew about 13.5 inches, but it was actually all in my legs. My spine did not grow anymore at all because it had already hit the capacity it could hit with the curvature the way it was. So but even though I had those issues from birth, I was still very, very active. I raced BMX bikes, and I was a skateboarder, and I was a tennis player. I played 8 hours a day of something. One of those I was doing 8 hours a day for the longest time period. Really liked a lot of stuff with X Games, which you can imagine I had a lot of accidents there as well because of that. So over the years, I ended up having just a myriad of accidents and different things that occurred that caused me more and more physical problems as I got older. And then after my first child, I was even diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which I didn't want to accept, obviously, but I didn't know what else to do because I was very miserable and I was in pain all the time and couldn't figure out why. I tried a lot of different types of modalities, everything from chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, you name it. I pretty much have done it before I came across spinal flow. And when I came across spinal flow, I was looking for my healing. But prior to that, I actually had even gone down the plant medicine ceremonies to see about getting healed that way, because I just knew there had to be something out there and that our bodies were supposed to be able to heal ourselves. But I didn't know why or how mine wasn't, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
So during a plant medicine ceremony, one of the first ones I went to, ayahuasca told me that I was supposed to be a healer, but I didn't understand how. And I get emotional, but that's okay. Emotions are supposed to be shed, not kept in. So bear with me if I do cry from time to time. And I learned that as well. And that was part of the problem, is some of the emotions I was having were not getting expressed
Okay.
appropriately.
And this was after the plant ceremonies were after your car accident, the major car accident, or
Oh
before?
yeah,
Okay.
I had 4 major car accidents and 2 near-death experiences.
Okay. So that's
So
plus
I'm
all your
supposed to
X
be
Games.
here,
Okay.
obviously, or I wouldn't be here already. That's all there is to it. So yeah, the last near-death experience I had was actually in 2009, I think it was. I actually ended up with salmonella poisoning, and I threw up from the salmonella poisoning and got aspirated and got pneumonia really bad on top of that. And so by the time I got in the hospital, my blood pressure had dropped down really low. My blood pressure is already relatively low, but it kept dropping further. So they ended up putting a straight line of dopamine into my heart and turning me upside down for over 8 hours. And I was still in cardiac ICU for like 9 days. They kept telling me, be still, don't do anything. You're on the verge of dying. And I'm like, I'm not dying. I'm not going to die. I don't know what y'all are thinking about. I'm just going to fix me. We'll be okay. They didn't like me much for that. They really wanted me to just sit still and do nothing. Very hard for somebody like me to do that too. So anyway, then after that, I did have one really major car accident where a guy hit me from behind at roughly about 60 miles an hour. It was an older gentleman. I was on an access road at a stoplight, and he hit me 65 miles an hour 3 times from the back because he was with one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas. So whenever he was on the gas, he would hit me, he'd hit the brake, he'd not hit me, and I was at a red light. So it was 3 times in a row. So it really caused some serious damage. I was supposed to have a cervical discotomy infusion to my C4, 5, and 5, 6. I didn't do it though because insurance didn't cover it, and I would have to go up to 6 months with no driving. And I was a single mom in a city that didn't have great transportation, public transportation. So I just opted out for doing it and just decided I would no longer be an X-Gang person and doing all the kind of stuff that I love to do, you know. Bungee jumping was now out the back window, you know, not happening anymore. But gradually everything just kept getting worse because of all those things. And it was really hard for me to function. I was basically about 3 days a week in bed. About a year and a half ago, I was about 3 days a week in bed, bedridden, and not being able to do anything at all about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So quite a remarkable difference of where I am today, obviously. And what happened is I had again looked at plant medicine ceremonies. I had told me I was supposed to be a healer, did not know what that was supposed to look like or what it was going to be coming from at all. So I patiently waited. You know, I was like, okay, it'll present itself. I'll find out like I'm supposed to, because it's obviously there. I've learned a long time ago, sometimes when I go searching for things, they'll never appear. But if I sit down and just wait, they'll appear on their own. So patience is a big
Yeah,
key,
beautiful.
without a doubt. Not always the easiest for people to do, though. So eventually what happened is there was a modality spinal flow that came across my feed on Facebook. And as soon as I heard Dr. Carly talking about it and I saw what she was doing, I just immediately knew. I mean, I've always had a strong knowing of certain things. You know, I guess that goes along with the clairvoyance. But it's straight up just, I know, I can't tell you why I know, but I know that this is what it is and this is going to work and this is how it's going to happen. And as soon as I saw her stuff, I knew that that's what was going to happen. I didn't really remember immediately about the healing that I was supposed to be doing for others. I was only thinking of myself at that exact point, which we do sometimes, right? And so I just kept looking on her website for the practitioners to find a practitioner near me, but there wasn't one. The closest one was in northern Arizona, and I'm in Austin, Texas. So that's a pretty good difference of distance. So I just kept looking for about 3.5, 4 months. Every so often I go on the website and look for it. And then all of a sudden a little still small voice came in to me. My higher self tells me, what are you waiting for? You're supposed to be healing people.
Ooh,
So,
nice voice.
yeah. It's like, just what are you waiting for? You're supposed to be doing this. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. That's why there's still no one for me to be able to go to. So without ever having experienced it, I went ahead and signed up to go through the training to become a practitioner. And then I ended up finding out that another friend of mine in San Antonio that I've known for 30-something years was also signed up in the same training class. So our lives have always gone like this. And again, here it was going like this, and we were connecting. So we started practicing on each other, not really knowing what we were doing 100% because we hadn't gone to any in-person training as of yet. It was all online and a self-paced course online at the time. So we started practicing on each other, and gradually I started feeling a little bit better, but I knew that when I went to the immersive, that's when I would definitely be able to get the bulk of my healing, because we were going to be able to do, we received during our 7-day training, we received 3 sessions a day, at least on each other, that we were practicing and working with each other for 7 days. And that's a lot for sure. And so after that training, during that training, I actually had come across, or before that training, actually, I understood about the flow, because while we were practicing one day, I felt this pressure in my ankle, my right ankle, and I didn't know what to do with it, you know, because I just didn't really know. Felt like it needed to pop. I never popped my ankles, but that's what it felt like. So I tried to twist it, turn it, do all kinds of stuff. Nothing happened. Finally, I kicked really hard and really fast backwards, like a kind of like a horse kicking, if you know what I'm saying. And when I did that, this wave came over from literally from my ankle all the way up to the crown of my head and back down through my spinal column. And it was just the wave of the cerebral spinal fluid. It was nuts. It literally felt like it came from my foot. I know it didn't come from my foot because it's not going all the way down there, but that's what it felt like. The energetic wave started from there, and it shot it straight up into my head, all the way back down through my spine. And it was this warm, almost like a warm bath sensation, but of like a wave of an ocean going over me, like a warm water wave going over me and through my body and back through it. And it was very comforting. It gave me a euphoric feeling for sure. I didn't know this at the time, but part of the reason that that does happen the way it does is because the brain waves that the body's going through during the spinal flow sessions is going in and out of alpha and theta states. So you're in a hypnotic state to begin with that parasympathetic state that you're in. So it was just a remarkable feeling. It flowed through me the rest of that day for sure. And then I had to learn how to be able to activate it myself as well without necessarily being in an actual hands-on session with someone else, because there were no other people close to me. Even the people I practiced with were anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours away from me. So there was no one else locally here in Austin at the time. Still not a lot, actually. So there's a self-healing technique that Dr. Carly also teaches that you can add with your practice to be able to increase that and to be able to experience it more often. And it is basically a combination of touch, where you touch your own body and you let your hands literally melt into your body so that the connection kind of becomes one, if that makes sense, where you don't feel the beginning or the end of where you're touching. Kind of melts together. And also breathing, being a longer exhale than an inhale, anywhere, whether it be a 4, 6, 3, 5, whatever the number count you want to put on it, that's fine. Just the exhalation needs to be much longer than the inhalation. So, and then also a movement that can be done with that too, to help that move through. And it's done like in a meditation process. We scan our bodies, starting from the tip of our toes, going all the way to the crown of the head. And then start with whatever center. There's like 3 centers of the body. We start with whatever center of the body we feel like we have the most life force energy in already. There's some quizzes that we can do for that as well to be able to help determine what that might be for an individual if they don't know what that is for themselves. Mine was touch and heart center, or the center area. So you start with having your hands, since I was touched, just letting them melt into my chest area, along with that 4-6 breath, and just really getting to that state of relaxation and that parasympathetic state starting. And then move the hands starting down from the sacrum, going up to the crown again, and doing movement along with that in a process with this meditation. 20-30 minutes or so, and you can feel it going through. And I do one in the morning when I wake up. After I do some stretches and stuff, I'll do it in the morning after I wake up. And then I also do it at night before I go to sleep, so that I can get my body really ready for that rest, so it can continue to heal itself. After I was in Hawaii, that's where I went for my training. It's a nice place to go. It's the first time I got to go there. So while I was in Hawaii, or after I left Hawaii, I also had a Dodgers hump on my back from all kinds of different things, the fibromyalgia, the scoliosis, you name it. It just had gone in. I was kind of like this all the time, humped over, and I could not get straight no matter how much I tried. When my son picked me up from the airport, he was astonished at the difference in my entire physique, because I no longer had that Dodgers hump. My back was as straight as could be, and I gained over 2 inches in height. My son is like 6'8.5". So he knew exactly how far he used to have to bend down to give me a hug. And he's like, "Mom, you grew at least 2.5 inches. I
Wow.
don't understand how this happened." And he goes, "And that hump on your back, it's been there like forever." And I'm like, "I know, it's gone." So, and then eventually, with more sessions, my TMJ and lockjaw completely was gone now as well. That was really crazy too, because it sounded like when the pressure hit and it was actually letting it go and recorrecting itself, the body was, it sounded like every bone in my mouth and jaw was completely crushed and broken consistently. I mean, it just like 5 minutes of this bones crushing. Sounded horrible. And it was really loud, obviously, to me, but it was also loud because my friend that I was at her place for her studio where she does spinal flow, the lady next door was able to actually hear it through through the wall, and she came over to make sure everybody was okay, because she was like, what is going on in here? Because it was just so loud. So, but I no longer have any pressure in my jaw. I don't clench my jaw like I used to. It doesn't shift like it used to. I used to not be able to chew gum, and half the stuff that I wanted to eat gave me problems because my jaw would slip as I was eating it and I'd have holes in my tongue. So that not happening anymore is huge as well. So yeah, the scoliosis is corrected also. I have maybe about 10 to 15% of my pain from fibromyalgia still, but I know that with my next, I'm going to be helping with another training session with Dr. Carly on the team for helping for that. And when we go to that, where you also are able to get anywhere from 3 to 5 sessions a day for 7 days. I know that my next go around to that, it's going to be gone. That's all there is to it. It's going to be completely gone.
Wow. Now, prior to this first experience with the CSF that you felt it when you kicked your ankle, had you been studying the CSF, or had you known anything about it, or that's like the sensation that you felt was like this wave going up to your crown and then down? And did then you go and look and be like, what was that? And how did you figure out that that was the CSF, or what was the felt sense that you're like, that's the CSF, or it's connected to the spinal flow, or what that
Right.
was?
Well, in our training, Carly does talk about a spinal wave that happens, and that's what she calls the flow, is a wave. And that wave is the cerebral spinal fluid helping open up the blockages in the spine to cause more ease throughout the spine, because of where the blockages are, whether they're emotional blockages in the spine, physical blockages from accidents or whatever it may be, or if it's chemical blockages that are in there from foods we eat, the air we smell, whatever. I mean, there's, how that works. Chemicals come in from all kinds of different directions for us and can cause problems as well. So I knew that that's what the spinal wave was. I just didn't necessarily understand much about it. But of course, obviously, after I felt that, I then went in and started researching more on exactly what it was and why that would do what it did, why it would cause the feeling that it did. It's not really like a DMT feeling, but it definitely is euphoric. I mean, it's almost like you took a drug, to me. Now, the clients that I work on, they all experience things differently. And I think, honestly, anybody that does have this happen, I don't think that everybody's experiences are exactly the same. I think because our bodies are the same but different, each session for each individual is a little different. I also ended up with more visuals after doing it more often and feeling that flow come through more. I also got a lot more visuals. I'll have people that when I'm giving them sessions, they'll have visuals. I've had people tell me that their third eye is opened up. I have people that'll tell me that their spiritual gifts have been presented to them while they were on the table getting a session. So yeah, I did a lot more studying, and a lot of it that I did, it was some of it was too complex for my own brain because I am not a medical professional per se. I didn't go to Harvard Medical School like you did by any means. And I actually didn't even do the same type of college that you did, even regular college. I was in a whole different industry at the time. I've totally changed where I was. I finally found my purpose. I just didn't know that that's where my purpose was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the studying that I did go ahead and I started listening to you. I started trying to listen to people who broke it down a little bit better for my simple brain.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
I'm intelligent, but I just don't have that high medical thing, but I am a medical intuitive as well. And I really have known that since I was younger as well, because I'd have people say, tell me like symptoms or issues that they were having. And I would just like know what was wrong or what they needed. And I never understood that. My mom used to say, don't do that. Don't talk to people like that. You're going to think you're crazy. And so like, I literally got all of my spiritual gifts that were basically I was born with pretty much shut down. And they really did kind of fall away or fade away after having some of those major car accidents. But now looking back on it and understanding it, I do understand why that happened. You know, I had those accidents closed off the cerebral spinal fluid. And the cerebral spinal fluid moving up and down is what was creating part of those, because it does connect you with your higher self 100%, in my opinion. I know
So
that
tell me about what's your relationship with that? How is that your opinion now? What sort of,
um,
as a medical intuitive, as a spinal flow practitioner, as a human being, as a felt sensor of the cerebrospinal fluid, what is that you're like, absolutely? Because you're saying it like you knew it, like you know it the same way that you knew that spinal flow was going to heal you in a way.
it's
Like
kind of
I
that.
just know it. I don't.
It is kind of that. It absolutely is kind of that. But it's also because the connection was back and it was just like back.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, like
Wow.
it wasn't like it was this buildup. It was just like, okay, this is what you had before, you have it now again. So the dreams came back. I was hitting my deep levels of sleep, which I had not done forever, because obviously that's part of the problem when somebody has fibromyalgia, right? They're not hitting the deep REM sleep. That's why their
Yeah.
body's saying
Yeah.
they're in pain.
Yeah.
So if I didn't hit a deep REM sleep, how am I actually going to get the premonitions the way I had previously? Because they were literally while I was sleeping that I was getting them, not like while I was wide awake. Now, sometimes I would have like a little deja vu kind of thing happen during the day, but they were really brief. My dreams at night were like long, like a whole story of something, a whole day of something that was going to happen.
That's
When I
amazing.
was in college years, I actually prevented myself from getting killed by an 18-wheeler, because when I looked in the mirror, I realized I was wearing clothes that I had worn in this premonition, and I was going to be on the same highway that I was during the premonition that an 18-wheeler jackknifed and hit my car and killed me. So I changed clothes, which put me late by 3 minutes. And there was an accident where someone else had gotten hit by an 18-wheeler on that highway.
Whoa.
It's
Wow.
pretty intense, you know?
Yeah.
So those things all came back and they didn't just trickle it. They kind
It
of
was
flooded.
instant.
I don't know how to explain it.
Interesting. And how do you sense it now in your body? You said obviously all these things came back, but is there a felt sense in the moment?
For me, I feel like a little tingle, a little extra energy flow, almost a little electricity, but not really electricity, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, but that's on a personal level. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I've talked with a lot of my clients, you know, that I work with, and they all feel different things. And so I just think it's whatever their own senses that are heightened and how they're heightened as to what they actually sense or feel.
Well, that's why we're trying to do this is get a broad enough scope of that felt sense of the cerebrospinal fluid to see, is it describable in some way that is consistent across different people, or with the different senses of ability to sense, sensitivity levels, almost like a dial on a volume where, my sensitivity level might be a 1 where yours might be a
Yeah.
10, and so you're describing it in much more of a sensitive, sort of much more strong interoceptive perspective. And that's what we're trying to get at is, some people tell me that you can't feel it at all, and
Mhm.
it's sort of like, okay, that's your experience, as opposed to other people who say, oh, this is, this is where I feel it, this is how I feel it, it's got movement, it's not stagnant, it's this, and sort of going down that path. So I'm curious to get that sort of a broad description from different people who have felt the experience and have it, that can reproduce it, and sort of, you can describe it almost like, what does it feel like to touch the skin of an orange or something, right? And you're going to describe it possibly a little bit differently than me, but we might
Yeah.
be similar.
No, I can understand that. And the reason I think that I feel it the way that I do, just a couple of things. So one, I've been able to see energy in the air forever. Like I can just see energy. Um, sometimes more intensely than others. When I was born, all of my senses were a little heightened. Like
Yeah.
at the very beginning, my taste buds, my hearing, my vision, my sense of touch, sense of pain, all very high, very easy. I could deal with pain, but I felt it immediately. Like if something just barely touched me, I could feel it. It could actually be like I could have my hand this close to each other and I can actually feel the other hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And my eyesight was better in 2020. My hearing was like phenomenal. I could hear things that people weren't supposed to be able to hear, at least not at my age or whatever. Of course, as I've gotten older, they're not quite as intense as they were. Obviously, I'm wearing glasses now, but my eyesight's really not that bad. But it feels like I'm blind for how well I used to see beyond what I was supposed to see.
Totally.
You get it from that far to just a little bit to right around the 2020 or a little less. It feels like you're blind. At least it did to me. So I think part of the reason that I do feel the sensations that I feel is because I already had a very high sense.
Hmm.
My sensitivity level's always been high for senses.
And do you think when your clients come in that their sensitivity is already heightened a bit, or with the spinal flow, does their sensitivity increase with the therapy that they receive from you or
It
from
definitely
anybody?
increases with the times that they've been in. So the
Okay.
people that really surrender first off, because I'll have people that'll come in and be like, okay, I'll try this, but I kind of doubt it or whatever. Intention is everything. It absolutely is. And I don't mean just with this, I mean in life. Intention is everything. Whatever your intention is behind something's going to make a big difference as to whatever your result is. Always. And attitude as well. But sometimes if people are in a lot of pain, their attitude's not so great because the pain's kind of taken over. So when they come in with the intention that they're going to surrender and that they want to heal, they do definitely move more through it quickly. But the more sessions that they have, the higher it becomes of feeling those things and really knowing. When I was practicing and studying, I had a gentleman, a friend of mine that's a conduit. Not really quite a medium, but very similar to that. And when he would get on my table, he would have immense downloads. One of his last sessions, he had 35 years of downloads in 30 minutes. And so he ended up having to literally lay on my bed or on my couch, actually, in my living room, and let it all process. And it took a couple hours. So, and that's another reason I really do think that it is connected with conscious, obviously.
Hmm. Wow, that's fantastic. That's a beautiful story. What a journey! What a journey of self healing and discovery, and then reconnection. Seems like.
Had a lot of great things with that. I've seen such phenomenal results. I'm astonished every time, even though I know it's happening. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's going to happen for the next person. And I want to help them get back to who they're supposed to be and find who they're supposed to be. Because sometimes people never know who they were supposed to be, because we can get blockages that cause problems with our cerebral spinal fluid from birth.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey. I'm just curious, if people want to contact you, or if you have a website, if they're in your area and want a session, if you're willing to share any of that information, please do. And then also, if you have any sort of final words to share.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, so my business, my practice is E-Motion Wellness, and I'm in Austin, Texas. My my website address is E-Motion Wellness, all one word, .com. And they can definitely reach out to me there. I'd be more than happy to help them. Final words on it, just we need to get back to where we were or where we're supposed to be, all of us. And I don't just mean like people that have had injuries or people that have certain things. We all have different things that are blocking us from where we're supposed to be, whatever it may be. It can be emotional situations, it can be physical, it can be chemical, it can be mental, you know? But what I've seen specifically with spinal flow and with what happens with the cerebral spinal fluid, because of that, it opens all that back up and it lets you authentically be you again and keep moving forward to be part of this one conscious to begin with. You know, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be. I think honestly, I feel like sometimes, and I know this is kind of like, sounds probably way woo-woo, way more woo-woo than it probably should. But you know, for right back to the whole peace, love, and happiness and everybody getting along and taking care of it, we're all connected. We're separate but connected. And that conscious is what's connected. And that conscious to me is the cerebral spinal fluid moving through us.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. What a perfect web name to E dash motion, separating the E from the motion. I love it. I
And
love it.
the reason for that is because our emotions are energy in motion and they're
Yeah,
supposed to be expressed, not
totally.
kept in. And our society and our parents and everybody, I mean, and the teachers, you name it, it happens across the board. They're always trying to block someone's emotions. Calm them down. Don't do that. Do this. You need to be quiet. You need this, that. Having a baby not cry, the baby's crying, the baby needs to cry. Let them cry. Once they get it out, they're done. They stop. It doesn't last forever, right?
Yeah, no.
You got kids. I got kids. It doesn't last
Emote,
forever.
totally. Emote, right? E is out, right?
Yep.
Exit, E out. Emote,
Yep.
move. Move it out.
Yep.
Move it out.
Move it out.
Move
Move
it
it out
out.
and let
Move it
it
out.
flow.
Let it flow.
Absolutely.
Let move it out. Let it flow.
Absolutely. And I do also host retreats. So even if the people aren't in the Austin area, I am doing retreats all over the country, and hopefully within the next year or so, I'll be doing them internationally as well.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, well, Michele, thank you so much again. Emotionwellness.com. Thank you so much for sharing your story about your own self-healing, your own practice, and then your reconnection with your divine. Thank you. Love
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate your time.